In hour 11, I'm guided by the key word, Olbios, which is a beautiful illustration of how in poetic treatments of the hero, there is often a surface meaning and then a meaning underneath the surface. In the case of Olbios, the surface meaning is fortunate, and your good fortune can be measured in wealth, power, and prestige, you name it. But then there's an underneath the surface meaning, which is hard to translate. I shoot for blessed or blissful, but the idea is that it's a kind of mystical happiness that can only be achieved when it comes to the hero's own experiences after death. So for the hero to be blissful or blessed is an afterlife experience. For us everyday humans who worship heroes, and that's what's happening in the historical period of ancient Greek song culture, we get to be olbioi, or blessed or blissful, when we make contact with the hero, the dead hero, whether that contact is physical or even just mental. Mental contact will do in many situations. Although there are few direct references to the hero as a cult hero in Homeric poetry, I start with one of those few cases where it's fairly explicit. And it's a situation where the psukhe, I'll try not to translate it, of Agamemnon is talking to the psukhe of Achilles in Hades. So we have to imagine this encounter in a kind of transitional phase that will lead to some kind of sorting out of an afterlife. But they're definitely not alive anymore, but they're talking to each other. And Agamemnon refers to Achilles in the second person, you, as Olbios. You are Olbios, Achilles. And why are you Olbios? Because, well, the way you died and the kind of funeral you had, and then by implication, the kind of afterlife you have, are a blueprint for what it is to be a successful cult hero. And as for me, Agamemnon, well, I'm not so fortunate. And what makes things not work for Agamemnon and what makes things work for Achilles, we can all figure that out together, but I'd like to stress for now simply the fact that Achilles is already tagged as a cult hero here. Not only that, you have one of the most explicit descriptions of how a cult hero is situated as a cult hero, and that means the cult hero has a tomb, and we all know that the traditional word for that is sema, and you see in Homeric poetry more than one reference to that, so that's fine. But it's more than that. It's not just that he has a sema, it's that this sema is sending off messages not only to heroes in the there and then of the heroic world, but also to ordinary humans in the future. And what is the future? The future is the time when people are listening to the Iliad, listening to the Odyssey and the historical period. And there's this curious window that opens out into the world that is post-heroic, that is post-epic, and how people will be guided by the tomb of Achilles. Well, is it the tomb, or is it the fact that it looks like a lighthouse? And we'll talk later about how to visualize a lighthouse, but let me just use that as a cover term for now. So what is it? Or can we even say, as I certainly tried to argue in hour 7 and hour 8, especially in hour 8, that the sema is not just the tomb of a hero, it's also the meaning of the hero. So in a sense, this beautiful passage illustrates, after everything is said and done, we're now wrapping up the Odyssey after having wrapped up the Iliad, and there is the tomb of Achilles, which signals to people in the present the meaning of the hero. what could be a more beautiful way of expressing the meaning of the hero in this medium of epic, which ordinarily doesn't talk about the details about what it is like to worship a hero, but the essentials are all given here.